What's up, everybody? Dan here, and this is For Your Mental Health Weekly, where we talk about topics that deal with mental health issues that I deal with, that you deal with, that pretty much everybody deals with in some way or another. So I think this is a really helpful show, and hopefully getting something out of it every week. It's a weekly show, so I try to do the best I can to get it out there for all y'all. Today's show is a special one because today we have another special guest.
Special guest numero dos, number two. Andrew Mann in the building. Too
What's
sweet.
up, guys? What's up, guys? How you doing?
Andrew is here from Too Sweet Cosplay, big into the cosplay scene, big into conventions, all around awesome dude, and I'm really happy he's on the show. So, yeah, glad to have you here.
No, thank you for having me, man. I've been looking forward to this.
Wonderful. Me too. So I guess we should start by talking about how we met, kind of what our relationship is. We met through ASEN, right? Going to conventions, cosplaying, wrestling.
Yeah. I believe we had met at ASEN. I think it was one of the wrestling cosplay shoots that was hosted because a buddy of mine does a like a wrestling cosplay shoot for Anime Central for every Sunday, and that's kind of actually how I met Dan too, because that was actually my first time going, and that was like my first time doing a legit WWE cosplay at the time. I was doing the Shield version of Dean Ambrose.
Yes.
And yes, and I believe you, sir, were doing the Demon Finn Balor right there.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I think.
Yeah,
oh,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I just when we were talking about how we started to know each other, I immediately thought of your Dean Ambrose cosplay. That's the first time I remember seeing you, I think.
Yeah. I mean, that was my first time going to it was like I've cosplayed before, but that was actually my first time actually going to a wrestling based cosplay shoot. And I thought it was amazing. First off, I mean, just seeing everybody, in different wrestling cosplays and just a lot of different WWE fans, wrestling fans. I didn't think that actually existed around the area at the time. And, it was really cool we met some really awesome people. Dan, especially, yourself.
Thank you.
I actually think I asked for like a selfie with you there too, without actually knowing who you were.
Yes, I recall that definitely. It was at the end of the shoot. I was in my Finn Balor gear. You were in Dean Ambrose, and I totally remember that. So here we are today, like what, 5-6 years later, 7 years later.
Crazy, man. That's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, and then I think we just started seeing each other more at the cons, like just any kind of con, really. And that's kind of, honestly, that's kind of how we know. Like, I just know people in general from the con community. We just kind of just see each other on a regular basis. To the point where it's like, oh, I've seen you at this con. Oh, I remember seeing you at that con. And and I think just because of that, we just tend to just talk to them more, and then you end up becoming friends. You just end up clicking with them too. So I mean, that's the beauty of the con community there.
It really is. And I think that segues beautifully into what we're talking about today, which is social anxiety. So something that affects a lot of people out there in the world. For me, when I go to conventions, like it's such a relief to know that it's such an accepting and creative type of community, like you walk in and you see people cosplaying from a show that you like or a show that you're cosplaying. It's a great feeling. It's that wonderful like sense of warmth and connection that makes you want to keep going.
Definitely, I have to agree with you on that. A quick story here as to how I even got into the con community or just the con scene in general. Because I mean, I was always into that kind of stuff. Like the comic books, the video games, wrestling. But I didn't really have anybody else to share that with there. Maybe occasionally, like my one or two people there, but nothing too big on it. And then. My sister, who's also big into that, all the comic books and all the geeky stuff there, she actually got passes for a Wizard World. I think this was like in 2011, 2012. And then she just basically gave them to me because she wasn't able to go herself. And I was just like, oh, well, what is this? And she was telling me about it. I'm just like, oh, this sounds fun. I figured I'd go check it out. And then I took my friend with. And then when I went inside the convention area, I didn't know what to really expect. I look around and I'm just, it was like, oh, as cheesy as it sounds, it's like love at first sight. You know, just seeing all the different vendors, all the different, you know, booths, all the different, you know, celebrities, and of course the cosplays. You know, I think that's what really sold me on it. It was like seeing all these people, like, you know, dress up as, you know, characters from, you know, comics, video games, television shows, movies. And honestly, it looked really legit because I've heard of it at the time. This was me like before I started even cosplaying, but I was just like amazed by the detail and the craftsmanship. And you know, at the time I was just like wasn't really sure about whether or not I would even like it or not. But I think the more I saw it and more I got exposed to it, that was just like, you know what, I'm all in with this. And you know, I just kind of made me personally a little bit more at ease because, you know, prior to really being introduced to all that stuff, you know, I felt like I was a little bit self-conscious about, you know, that sharing that with openly with other people, because, you know, I've done that before. And, you know, let's just say that I just never really got good feedback out of it. So which is kind of unfortunate. And that's something that I dealt with for a while. And I just made me feel a little insecure about it. But just knowing that there was a community that, you know, was like thriving on this, and I can able to share that with, it just allowed me to open up a little bit more. And that's just like the Cliff Note version of it. But that's essentially how I got started in the con community. And, you know, that's just kind of made me into, I guess, the person that I am today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it works wonders. It really does. I come from a similar story. I think when I was, you know, a younger person, like 10 years ago, before I started going to cons, you know, my friendship base was pretty small. I mean, it was only a few people. And, you know, I was keeping in contact with some people from high school, but overall I wasn't really going out and doing stuff so much. I mean, there were other things going on in my life, but I wasn't really that social, I guess. You know, I was more to myself. And, you know, one day my friend Andres, we both know Andres, he he invited me to go to ASEN and be part of his Soul Eater cosplay group. And you know, the rest is history. Now I've gone for like almost 10 years now, and I've had a countless number of cosplays, countless number of conventions, and I've met so many great people over the years. And you know, it's amazing what can happen when you bring people together that that are open-minded, that do have like that similar sort of creativity and want for exploration, and, you know, the warmth to accept people for who they are. You know, it's pretty incredible for sure. So
it really is. I was just going to also add on that, you know, I think over the years, I think the more years that I've gone, like after that first year, I was hooked. And pretty soon it just kind of evolved into something that I never would have thought that I would ever really do, and that would be cosplaying. Because I think after 2 years into the convention scene, that's when I started doing cosplay, and that kind of was almost like a turning point for me in terms of just how I felt around being around people. Because I will say that, and I've got no problem sharing this, that I was pretty like socially awkward kid. Surprisingly enough, you know, I just didn't really know how to really carry myself, because and as I can go as far to say that maybe I didn't really know who I was as a person at the time, even prior to the con scene. But I think that, you know, once I started cosplaying, I think that gradually started to open some doors for me, because I didn't really realize that, that, you know, people actually like what I was like dressed as, or had my costume as, and they thought it was cool. my first cosplay was actually Ryu from the video game Street Fighter, and
Okay.
because that's definitely one of my all-time favorite video games there. And I wasn't really sure what kind of reaction I would get out of it. And first year I did it. It was an instant success. I mean, I didn't
Nice.
realize, because I mean, it didn't even seem that complex to me. But I guess because I had the look for it, I had the build for it. And I guess I had a lot of people asking me for photos, and I had people saying, "Oh, your cosplay is awesome. I love Street Fighter. You look great." I think just hearing those words of encouragement really kind of boosted my spirits quite a bit, and it kind of made me hungrier to just continue on with this, because I found at the time I just found something that I was like, okay, I can continue on with this. So I think that was one of the biggest reasons why I still like to cosplay even to this day.
Yeah. Those are excellent points. It's such a great confidence booster for someone who maybe lacks it in some way, for whatever reason. You live your life and you don't have those moments where you build your confidence over time. Maybe you do grow up socially awkward and you just, it's just not there. It's just not something that everyone easily gets to,
Yeah, absolutely.
Depending on what school they go to, depending on what the people at the school are like, and what their parents are like, and everything kind of mixed together, right?
Yeah.
Going to conventions, like, that's something we both share, and something we both gotten a great deal of just experience out of, and like confidence out of.
Yes.
I walk into a room wearing my Finn Balor cosplay, or Kairi Sane, or Brian Kendrick, or the countless number of anime folks, and people pay attention to that. It's like, I'm a little minor celebrity. That's awesome.
Yeah, I will say that speaking of the Kairi Sane cosplay you did, I remember that year. It was the ASIN in 2019, and I mean, that was the last ASIN that we had before COVID happened. But I remember, because I was like, me and my buddy, we were hosting it, and I was kind of in charge of like coordinating it, because I had the megaphone and everything. And then I mean, at the time I didn't see you there. I was like, oh, where's Dan? So I'm just kind of going about my business there, and then all of a sudden you pop in, and like you had your Kairi Sane cosplay, and I'm just like, holy. That's amazing.
Yes.
And like, I don't know if you heard me in the background there too. This is actually recorded on the we have the whole video of this on the Too Sweet Cosplay Facebook page, by the way.
Okay.
For all you guys listening out there.
Yeah, I may have seen it. It was like Instagram Live. Was the Instagram Live video?
Instagram Live, and we also have there's also a Facebook video recording of this too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But anyway, so like, here I am, I'm seeing, and then I'm just doing my thing here, and all of a sudden you pop up, and like I see you in this, like, I'm like, oh my God, you did Kairi Sane, that's amazing. And people were just like popping, like it was insane. And I was running on 4 hours of sleep at the time, and I'm just like, oh shit, I'm done. So in the best possible way. So very good, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Yeah, that was an amazing moment. I love to make those moments, because when you think about wrestling, it's all about those big pops, and it's all about those amazing moments that stick in your head forever.
Yes, it is.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah. So I always like to make a grand entrance.
Yes. You certainly did. You certainly did.
Yes, thank you. It's just it's been so cool, to make the friends there, like Janelle and Danielle, and like their group and everything. Like they're there every year. These are people we've seen countless years.
Yeah.
And it continues to grow, and it's just a lovely thing. So
it is.
Yeah.
And if you consider that, that was, I mean, it was, again, like I mentioned, that was the last ASIN, Anime Central, before the world. Can I swear on your podcast? Like, is that okay?
Sure. I could bleep it later, but you could do it
okay,
now. Yeah.
All right. Well, because the world went to so yes. Yeah. So I'm so used to it from my other podcasts that I do there too, that we can just say whatever. So but anyway, before COVID, I mean, this was the con basically before COVID happened, and it just basically is like it kind of makes it even more special, just because we don't know when cons are actually going to be up and running again. I mean, it could be as early as next year. I mean, pending on the vaccine distribution.
Right. Right.
So I mean, nobody really knows
Mm-hmm.
at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a mystery right now. So I mean, it's just, I feel like, and I'm sure you can agree with this too. I mean, I feel like cons will be up and running to a certain degree. But it's a matter of when.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
When are the vaccines available? When are they be able to be distributed? And when is everyone going to be able to, have access to them, right? So, those are
Yes.
big questions for sure.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely.
but yeah, once those things do happen, once everything's in place, we conceivably could get back to a time when things were not so bad. That people won't have to social distance as much, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe not wear as masks because we'll have a vaccine. It'll be like the flu vaccine. We have that under wraps, under control.
Right.
So we're trying to get to that point.
Definitely.
So let's talk about let's talk more about social anxiety. And
Yes.
so
Yes.
when you go to a convention
Mm-hmm.
and you're in these groups, these big groups, these like photo
Yeah.
shoots and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how does it make you feel? Like what do you think is the major cause of social anxiety for you?
Well, for me personally, it's hard to really pinpoint for me. I think it's just maybe if I had to really dive deep on this, and this is kind of going into the deep end here. Maybe
Yeah.
it's just I'd say more for me. It's like my background, just my cultural background, perhaps.
Okay.
And because of the fact that being of Chinese descent, I feel like that may have played a little bit of a role, especially growing up, because I grew up in Rockford, Illinois, and let's just say that's not the most diverse area. Not the totally trash Rockford, but I think for the most part that I grew up in essentially a very Caucasian-based neighborhood, and it was really hard to kind of fit in because at the time I was like into like a lot of different like nerdy shows, as a kid. I mean, which is like, if you talk about it right now, it's actually really cool. But, at the time, I mean, even as I got older and I still liked it, it was like very, I don't want to say embarrassing to talk about, but at the time, it wasn't like the coolest thing. And,
Mm-hmm.
and when I tried to express that there to, some people, they kind of just shrugged me off right away. Example, I'm a huge Power Rangers fan. Like that is like my
Mm-hmm.
jam right there. I still
Yep.
love it to this day. It is my shit. Uh, but I think for the most part, I now, and this may be a conversation for another time, but I can find people right now I can talk to about Power Rangers from an intelligence standpoint and actually get excited about it. But, as a kid, as much as I wanted to talk about it and I tried to, I think there's just the idea of, just getting like shunned in a sense there too by your peers. I think that really played a big role into, I guess my anxiety when it comes to, social anxiety,
Okay.
really.
Okay.
So just things like that there too. And just kind of, again, growing up, and just not being accepted, with my peers, and
Yeah.
I think that was really the hardest part growing up. I mean, I tried to, because I was pretty like into like a lot of sports, and I tried to get involved. So it wasn't like I wasn't trying at all, but I just felt like I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't myself at the time. And, that was probably one of the things that I guess I tried to almost assimilate into that society there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think that, as much as I tried with it, it just never really panned out. I don't want to, again, I don't want to blame it on, who I am, from a cultural standpoint or my background, because
Yeah.
I'd say because my parents are both very working class people, and the area that we grew up in was kind of like, kind of a richish kind of area, full, like Caucasian based, not a lot of Asians too, or any other, people of different cultural backgrounds. So I couldn't really like do any kind of relating or anything like that. So, I think that was like one of the things that kind of made it a little bit hard for me to really interact with people at the time. So I mean, I feel like that's kind of one of the big things that I felt that really contributed to what I didn't realize was social anxiety, because I didn't even know that was a thing at the time. So, but I think once I got older, it's you kind of learn about it a little bit more, and I'm like, oh, I might have something like that there. So
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, it sounds like to me you weren't really fitting into your environment, the place you were growing up, and it just you may have tried to make friends with your interests, but maybe it was hard to really get a lot of people on board. So to speak.
Yeah. I mean, it was even tough there too, to try to do that there too, or at least even like just talk about it casually too, because at the time it just wasn't cool to like Power Rangers at the time, or it wasn't cool to like comic books or like nerdy shows or whatever. And it was even to the point where I just decided to kind of just maybe put it to the side and almost like try to fit in by trying to wear the same style of clothes there too. And so that way, because in my mind at the time, and granted, just keep in mind that I was a totally different kid at the time, so that doesn't reflect who I am today. I think at the time I was so hell bent on trying to look the part, so that way I can at least blend in. And the more that I think about it, that was really a really bad approach, because I mean that just kind of goes against my views even today. So I mean, again, it's like the saying goes, you're when you're young, you're naive. So I think that's really what it comes down to there too. I mean, it still stings, honestly. I mean, it didn't really help when I went into high school either, because I felt like that was probably almost like the worst time for me.
Okay.
I thought that was kind of like tough for me from a social standpoint.
Can you expand on that a little bit?
Sure. It was tough at the time because when I was living in Rockford, like I mentioned before, I found out that I was going to move by the time I was 14. So just as I was about to finish middle school.
Oh, wow.
And I thought it was going to suck, because like I was just like, okay, this is like the worst possible time, I thought, because I'm about to start high school. All my friends are going to this high school, and then I'm moving away. So I mean, it was almost like starting from scratch. And when you start high school too, and I'm sure you can relate to this too, Dan, like when you start high school, you are relatively familiar with some of your peers, because a lot of them go to the same high school that you're going to. Like, so you at least have an idea on who you might meet, or who or whatnot, so at least you don't feel totally alone. Me on the other hand, I was starting from scratch. I didn't know anybody at all. Like,
that's rough.
It was almost like that, and that was like the point where I felt like I was so alone that I just didn't even know where to sit in the cafeteria. And
wow.
I was kind of like one of my low points there. I got no problems admitting that or sharing that there, but it was tough. It was tough at the time, and then eventually I think I eventually made some friends. Especially my freshman year, I made maybe one or two friends that at least I could sit with at lunch. So at least it didn't make me feel like a total loser at the time. But even then, even looking back at this, like, I can tell you right now, Dan, I hated high school. Like, I really hated it. Like, just because of like kind of like the same situations like I was talking about before. Because I mean, I still was into the whole I guess the con related stuff, as I like to call it.
Yes.
Without really realizing it that it's con related. But I again, this kind of like, I was still kind of going back to trying to fit in, almost assimilate with the crowd there, and it just didn't even work out. But I felt like I was a little bit more open about it at the time, but still, it was rough. It was rough because I still felt like I was like an outsider in a sense, because but I felt like I tried to fit in with with the cool crowd, I guess you can say, and it just didn't really work out.
Okay.
You know, and it was
Yeah.
just like, and it was a couple of times where I got shunned by a couple of groups there, and it was tough. It was tough, and it was what was even worse about it was, you know, I was in marching band at the time, and that was like you know, the only thing that really felt like I belonged somewhere, because you know, I was you know, fun fact about myself, I used to be a mean saxophone player. So
Was that
yeah,
right? I had no
yeah,
idea.
yeah.
That's awesome.
I was a pretty awesome saxophone
Yeah.
player there too.
Do you still play it all?
No, no. I still
No.
have it in storage. I actually have it in storage because I was actually helping my mom clean out the basement, and I came across. I'm like, oh, it's my old saxophone here. Yeah.
Nice.
So, but I mean, I'm sure if I you know get it together, start playing a few tunes, I'm like, oh, come back to me. But yeah, you know, being in band in high school there too, actually, I guess in a way it was like the closest thing that I had to feeling like I belonged. But even then I felt like an outsider. And the truth be told, now that I think about it, I felt like I was even more of an outsider when I was in band, because everybody seemed to have clicked with one another and they had their own little groups and stuff. I didn't really have anybody. And it was tough. It was really tough. And it was even tougher. I remember we went on this in my senior year. Two things actually, and I got no problem sharing this here. But you know, when I remember we actually got a chance to go to New York. You know, it's kind of like a senior trip, so it was actually pretty cool.
Yeah, I
know,
bet.
for the most part.
Yeah.
The thing, and because we got to play a couple of clinics, but most of the time we're just like, you know, sightseeing and enjoying the area and stuff like that. The thing was, everyone had their group of friends there too. I didn't. And honestly, it was almost like walking into a dumpster fire. I don't know if that's the best analogy, but
no, it is. I actually, on my my mask, it has a dumpster fire pattern. It says 2020 on it. So yeah, I can I can relate to dumpster fires.
Okay. All right. Well, maybe in this case it doesn't really apply, but you kind of get the idea though. So anyway, I didn't have any group of friends to go with, and here I am going on this trip to New York, and I'm essentially like, I'm clinging on to a couple of people that I kind of am comfortable with to a certain extent, but I wasn't like part of their group per se, you know. So it was almost like I was kind of like drifting around, like just pretending to be like this fly on the wall. But I think the low point at that time was when I guess I remember we were going to the the Statue of Liberty, and you know, because it's kind of like an area of its own, so you can kind of go around and see sites and stuff like that, and see like the actual statue. You know, everybody kind of went off in their group of friends and stuff like that. I basically ventured by myself. I actually walked alone by myself, and you know, because I didn't really have anybody to go with, so I just kind of just walked around and just, I don't know, just try to enjoy the sights and just make myself look busy at least. So at least I don't like be viewed as, oh, hey, look at that loser right there. Just what's he doing, you know?
Yeah.
You know, again, I'm totally comfortable talking about this here too, because it's like, you know, and I'll get to that later on. But you know, that it was tough. It was really tough, and I think because you know, that I was almost like adding like gasoline to this the social anxiety fire that I had, I guess, without really realizing it. It was even tough when we sat down for like dinners and stuff like that, and which leads me to point number 2 here. Because I was so socially awkward and socially quiet at the time, not even the senior class that I was a part of, they didn't even realize that I was a senior. They didn't even know that.
Wow.
And, yeah. That's when I knew that was kind of like my low point right there.
Yeah, goodness.
Yeah.
And you had been going there for 4 years, right? At this point?
Yeah.
Wow.
So that was when, like, I didn't know how to feel at the time. I was just like, please get me out of here. Please get me out of here. I want to go, you know.
I don't blame you. Going through all that stuff that you've mentioned. I mean, yeah, That's,
Yeah.
that's a lot to take in as a young person when you're so impressionable too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's tough. I mean, it's still tough to talk about, but at least now I'm kind of more than comfortable to really, like, really share this too. Truth is, actually, this is the first time we've actually shared this out in the open in quite some time, like, outside of my family. So,
Yeah.
I mean, but the thing is, it's just like, it was such a rough time for me that I just don't want to talk about it. And the times that I ever do talk about it, I tell this to a lot of people too, that if somebody were to, I may have told this to you, Dan, actually,
Oh,
if
maybe.
somebody were to give me $1 million to repeat all 4 years of high school, I'd rip it up in front of them and then I'd piss it out. That's how bad. That's how serious I am about it.
Yeah.
But however, if somebody were to give me $1 million to repeat all 4 years of high school with the mindset that I have right now,
Mm-hmm.
I'd consider it.
Yeah, you might be $1 million richer at that point.
Yeah. And
Who knows?
and I at least now know who the hell I am right now. So.
Yes. And so I think that transitions well into the next point.
Yeah.
As you've gone through all these experiences in your life,
Mm-hmm.
and you've progressed as a person to the man you are today, what do you think?
Yeah.
What do you think you've done between when all this stuff was happening in high school and now to really get yourself more comfortable with who you are and with other people around you?
Oh, that's a great question, man. I think just self-growth, and being able to, I guess, just kind of discover who you are on your own terms, especially when you enter college too. Because the minute I started college, I kind of felt like that's when I felt like I had a little bit more freedom to be myself.
Yeah, me too.
I actually started first couple of years at a community college, College of DuPage, if you guys are from the DuPage area. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so I started about there for a couple of years, and it was great because that was actually the first time I actually did good in school, because I was like, despite the stereotypes of me being Asian, Chinese, and just being like saying, oh, you're supposed to be smart and stuff, my grades were like average, maybe above average at best. So, and I wasn't really like the super honor student, AP course overachiever type student at the time.
Sure.
But when I went to COD, I actually did really good in school, because I guess I was a little bit more focused. I didn't have to worry about anybody else, so that made things a little bit better. Thing is, it was almost like it was like an up and down cycle overall, because once I transferred over to the University of Illinois, Chicago, to get my bachelor's, I stayed on campus. I actually stayed in the dorms just to say, oh, hey, I at least to get that college experience, I guess, because again, and I feel like maybe this is something maybe you can dive into too, Dan, because I'd like to get your points on this, because I feel like that society has certain norms within like kids or teenagers or whatever, okay, oh, you're supposed to go to high school, oh, you're supposed to go to prom, oh, you're supposed to go to college and live in the dorms and all that stuff there too. So does that kind of make sense though?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I can see where you're going with this.
Okay.
So I didn't go to prom. I did go to college, but I didn't stay on campus. I commuted back and forth from the suburbs. I went to school in the city, and so I was going back and forth on the trains.
Okay.
And it was kind of a hassle, but also it was kind of like, it was kind of good too, because I was living with my mom at the time, and so it was nice to get away from her a little bit and just get on the train and go to the city, have a little fun in the city, and maybe come back.
Yeah.
Just get a little break, that sort of thing. So but I think, if you're coming from a family that maybe isn't that well off, like I just had a single mom, she was working, 2 jobs or whatever, and trying to support the both of us. So, it wasn't a really financially overflowing kind of situation, So,
Sure.
So, for me, I couldn't always afford everything, maybe going to prom might be a little expensive, buying, renting a tux or, limo or something like that. The classic, you talk about the norms, the classic way.
Yeah. Kind of backtracking, back to, my unfortunate high school days there too.
Yeah.
Didn't go to prom either. And honestly, I think it was because I didn't have anybody to go with, or I didn't even have a group of friends to go
Yeah.
with. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it was a financial issue for me, because, my parents, my dad owns a restaurant, and a very good restaurant.
Oh, yeah.
And Dan, you've been there, so
I have. It's a
Yeah,
lovely little place.
Yes. And the thing was, by my junior year, that's when it actually opened up at that location. Because prior to that, my dad took a little bit of a hiatus from the restaurant business, but then, gradually started to reopen, get that spot up and running. So once we got that going, I was actually working there most of my weekends there too. And I feel like that, not to put the blame on them or anything, but I feel like just having to work at my dad's restaurant every weekend, when society tells you, oh, you're supposed to enjoy your weekend with your friends, you're supposed to go to parties and stuff like that there too.
Yes.
I didn't have that. I basically had Fridays and Saturday nights, I'm basically there just working, busting tables, whatever. So I never really had that, opportunity to really go out and enjoy myself at all. I didn't really have much of a social life because of that. I'm not blaming my parents at all. It's just because it's just, it's just in the family. It's just a family business.
It's a trade-off. It really is a trade-off. Yeah.
Yeah. And, and part of me does kind of resent them a little bit for that. But I think as I got older, it kind of made me appreciate, what they had to do to kind of put food on the table, from a figurative standpoint, of course.
Sure.
But
sure.
Yeah. So, but I think, and that's kind of what, prevented me from actually going to my senior prom at the time.
Okay.
And, and then I felt like that, because of that, that kind of extended into college as well. Because, even though I was living in the dorms there too, I still kind of felt like an outsider in a sense there. I mean, I got along with my roommate, which was cool.
Okay.
But, I think in terms of like being accepted by the rest of my floor, that was a little bit tough. So it was almost like those same feelings of what I felt in high school just kind of came back to me again. And it was almost confusing for me because I was like, oh, okay, I thought as I got older, as I get into college, I thought things were going to get better. But at the time, it really didn't. It was, again, another brief, tough time for me, which actually, honestly, I felt like it kind of distracted me from my studies a little bit. And, I think that was kind of like a rough point because I'm like, okay, I'm supposed to enjoy myself in college, but I'm not, And it was a little bit tough there too to kind of deal with, but not as bad as being in high school, because at least in college, at least when I was living in downtown, actually, it felt like I felt like the sense of freedom to allow myself to be myself, in a sense. So, so I actually felt pretty good about it, because I guess it was almost like the evolution of this different mindset that I have that I'm still carrying to this day, that it's okay to actually do stuff by yourself. I feel like that. I feel like you're seeing that a little bit more often now than maybe several years ago or even decades ago. Because I feel like now we're in a new decade. We're kind of like in a stage in life where it's acceptable to just have a cup of coffee by yourself, or eat breakfast by yourself, or even go to the movies by yourself. I just I feel like, or even just like walking around downtown by yourself. The key word here, by yourself. And,
especially now with COVID-19 being a big issue these days, and people staying home and people not wanting to go out and do things. So a lot of people are finding themselves by themselves.
Isn't that funny there too? Kind of sidetracking here on that, going into today, it's like, it's funny that people are making such a huge deal out of like social isolation and quarantining. I'm hearing people like freak out, like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I'm going to be stuck in the house. I don't know what to do. And like, for me, and maybe this applies to you too. And I'm just like, well, you're not completely isolated. You got Wi-Fi, you got electricity, you got cable. It's not like we're making you live in a cave,
Right.
and you know, I just like, it just interests me that people are making such a big deal out of this because they're not able to see their friends in person. And I'm just like, well, you know what? I've been doing this for all my life. I'm used to it. I don't know what you're talking about, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that, I mean, I can, you've thrown so much out there that I can relate to. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
guess I could go back to high school too, and we could talk about the fact that
Sure.
my mom, she delivered newspapers like on the side to, you know, get some
Okay.
extra cash. And so I would
Sure.
help
Sure.
her. I would help her Friday nights. Well, Friday mornings, I should say. Like Friday, we'd wake up at like 4:35 in the morning, deliver
Okay.
newspapers, and then Sundays as well. And because of that, I really didn't get much of a weekend high school experience either. I kind of missed out on that too. So, you know, that's
Okay.
something that, you know, we definitely vibe on, you know, just not having
Definitely.
that social interaction. I think
Mm-hmm.
one of the first parties, like high school parties I ever went to, I think happened after high school, like the summer I graduated.
Oh, okay. All
I
right.
was finally able to go and like have a good time at someone's house, you know, maybe have a couple drinks and play some rock band and have a campfire,
Okay.
you know. So yeah, I mean, a lot of people take those things for granted, but you know,
Yeah.
I don't because I didn't have much of them, to be honest. So I
Right.
totally hear you on that.
Mm-hmm.
And then college, yeah, I mean, like I'm kind of like, it's interesting for you to say that you were in the dorms and yet you didn't really feel like you had a very social experience, like you weren't accepted
Yeah,
on your
yes,
floor.
yes and no. Yes and no.
Yeah.
The first year I definitely didn't. But then I think the only time I ever felt like I was social, I felt like I belonged, is when we had video game tournaments. And at the time we were big on Super Smash Brothers. And
Hmm.
I felt like that because I'm like, oh, maybe this is a way to meet new people there too. And it
Yeah.
did because I mean, I love video games. I love Smash Brothers.
I
And
know you do.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, I was like, "Oh, this is cool." I actually felt like I belonged here. Or I felt like I was having fun.
Hmm.
So,
Okay.
and the other thing too, besides the whole video game thing, is you know, just finding different clubs. I guess in college there too, which kind of you know, ultimately leads me into you know who I am as a person today. But I guess I got myself reintroduced to martial arts when I was in college.
Okay.
So that was you know, because at the time, you know, growing up, I did taekwondo for a little bit, but I stopped. So I did have a little bit of a background, but I was never consistent enough, or I didn't really take it seriously because I was caught up in my own other thoughts. But
Hmm.
I think I was like, you know what, I want to get back into martial arts at the time. And what was cool was there was a like a martial arts type club that was in the rec center that they would do like every like Tuesday, Thursday evenings or something like that.
Hmm.
And that was sort of the few times when I was in college that I felt like I actually belonged somewhere because I met some awesome people. I met some you know, friends that I'm actually still keeping in touch with today, and just it exposed me to the current martial art that I'm actually doing today, Muay Thai. So yes,
Nice.
yes, yeah, yeah.
Nice.
So I think that.
That's
Oh, sorry.
awesome.
Go ahead.
No,
Yeah, yeah.
I would say that's awesome. I mean, you know, I've just gotten into martial arts recently. I talk a lot about it actually in my episodes,
Oh, okay.
how much it has helped and how much I've gotten from it over the past, you know, 4 months or so that I've been doing it. And
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
you know, once again, we're vibrating on the same rhythm here. You know, we love martial arts. We like, you know, gaming. We like cosplay. You know, we have all these similar interests, and it's no wonder we're good friends because, you know, obviously we like a lot of the same stuff, including wrestling, of course, lest we
Yeah,
forget.
yeah.
So if you were trying to be friends with a group that maybe you didn't share similar interests with, so I know
Okay,
like in high school, for instance, you said, you know, you had trouble making friends because,
sure.
you know, they weren't into Power Rangers, they weren't into video games like you were. Yeah, what would you do to kind of maybe ease yourself into that situation, you know? And
Oh, okay. Like, how would you handle yourself in
yeah,
that situation?
now that you have more experience, do you think there's any tips you could offer that maybe have helped you out?
Wow, that's a great question there too. I think I got the gist of it there too. I mean, it's just the thing is, you got to trust your instincts, honestly. That's one thing that I can tell you there too. It's just because you want to make sure that if you're going to be interacting with a certain group of people, make sure that they're not like they're actually people that you want to be around too. I mean, because if you don't feel like from an instinctual standpoint that they're not people that you want to be around, like, maybe that they're not a good crowd to be around, don't waste your time. Don't waste your time trying to push especially if it's conflicting views too. Because I mean, you can try. I'm not saying you shouldn't try, maybe, because you never know. You might find a diamond in the rough that might like the same stuff as you do there too, in that group that doesn't seem like that may be interested in it. So you never know. But if you feel like that it's just nothing, if you feel like if there's something wrong with this group, or even just by the slightest bit, I wouldn't waste your time. Because I can tell you right now, there's other people around that you can probably try to interact with, and which kind of also leads me to my second tip here. Clubs. I think clubs is a huge thing, being part of a club, especially if you're in high school too. There should be a bunch of clubs. I remember there was an anime club that was
Nice.
that they would have. I don't know why I never got into it there too. Maybe I just was again, different thoughts at the time there too. But the more I looked back at it, maybe I should have joined that club, because a lot of the stuff that I'm liking today actually is related to what they have involved in this club.
I think my question it leans more into the workplace, because that's a situation where you'd have to be around people that you necessarily don't have similar interests with, but you have to be around them just because they work with you. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So in regards to the workplace though, because that's tricky. That's really tricky. Because I'll be honest, because I work in a facility, because I work in physical therapy right now, and needless to say, I don't necessarily like to talk too much about my my social life right now in terms of cons and cosplay. Not that I don't all the time, but it's not something I push on them, because I mean, I'll be honest, it's not something that they could really understand. I mean, no disrespect to them, but not many people can.
Sure.
Honestly, I mean, that's tricky, because I mean, it's I would say maybe just try to just go about your own business the best way you can. I don't know if that's really the best real answer for that, or if that even makes sense at all. But
I mean, what have you done? What have some have been your strategies going forward in the workplace and trying to be social with your your fellow employees, and just trying to make everything feel good in your environment?
I guess that's a tough one for me, because I feel like I don't have anything concrete. But
that's okay.
Yeah, because I think for the most part, I casually would talk to them, and then I would mention maybe oh, hey, have you seen this movie before? Oh, hey, have you did you watch this on TV or whatever they do?
Yeah, mainstream stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's it right there. At least that now that we're kind of brainstorming this here too, that kind of seems to be the strategy that works for me. And I just try to dive into that as much as I can. So it's almost chain reaction. You find something, you have some kind of common interest with, you try to bounce off that, and then you try to bounce off that, and then so forth and so forth there. Yeah. So I don't know if that really makes any, if that kind of answers your question there, but that's kind of a strategy that I use that kind of has worked out for me.
Yeah, no, that's great. When I work certain jobs, in retail, especially when you have people that are much older than you, or they're teenagers, it's you kind of have to balance the ages of the people you're dealing with in your social circles. It's maybe the younger people are into TikTok, and they're into certain hip hop and and it's just a whole different animal than someone who's born in 1958. They're into jazz, and they might be into to crocheting. Who knows? Everybody's different.
So that kind of leads me to another tip: is just try to find common ground with them.
There you go. Yeah.
trying to find common ground. I'm like, see, I'm
Mm-hmm.
glad that we're kind of doing this, because now I'm getting some other ideas here.
Definitely.
Common ground, especially for me, in my field, since I'm a physical therapist, I have to work with patients who are mostly like 65 and older, way before, like beyond my age, because I'm part of that millennial group.
Yeah.
So I have nothing I can't really say I talk about with them per se. So, I mean, I try to just relate to them as much as I can. That's at least my strategy when it comes to working with either patients or even people in general, or talking to people in general.
Mm-hmm.
Just try to find common ground with them, even if you don't necessarily agree with their views. Just try to be civil, as much as possible.
Yeah. Yeah, and especially when you're in more of like a business sort of environment where
Yeah.
you're helping someone else out in like a medical way or something, and you want to keep things professional, you want to keep things on the level. Yeah, no, I agree. Finding that little common ground can make all the difference for sure.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Mm-hmm. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so before I let you go, we're heading into an hour of this
Oh,
conversation.
wow. Okay.
Yeah,
It's already been an hour. That's crazy.
yeah,
Yeah.
I know it flew by, right? It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So one thing I really wanted to talk about was social anxiety with people that are strangers, people you meet on the street,
Mm-hmm.
that you don't know, and
Mm-hmm.
that you're just maybe standing next to. Maybe you're at a stoplight, maybe you're at the bus stop. Um, maybe you're walking around a store and someone's in the same aisle you're in. Like, that's the stuff that kind of gets to me. Like, for when I think about social anxiety, for me, it's like going to places where it's like a public area and it's full of people I don't know, and it's like, do I talk to this person? Especially nowadays. I mean, I don't really go to the grocery store now because of everything's happening, but I was
Sure.
going for a while. And yeah, I mean, like, are people just too freaked out because of the virus, or even going further back, when before the pandemic, when people are just kind of more to themselves, they're on their smartphones. Like, you probably see people talking to like their loved ones, they have their phone right in front of their face and they're like
Yeah.
talking to somebody,
Yeah.
and that's, that was happening a lot back in the day. And for me, I'm the kind of person that likes to talk to people. I'm a friendly guy. I like to
Of
start,
course.
I like to have a little conversation here or there. People at the checkout, people at the bank. I like to
Yeah.
hit people up and be like, "Hey, what's going on? How you doing?" Um, so, what have your experiences been when going out in public places like the grocery store, the bank, gas station, wherever you go,
Mm-hmm.
with people that maybe you've never met before, or people that you only know just a little bit? Like, what have your conversations been like?
Well, if you asked me this like 10 years ago, maybe even more than that, 15 years ago, perhaps, I probably would say that it would be very awkward, because I didn't really, have a grasp of myself overall. But I think now, just going through a lot of these different experiences, going through a lot of different cons, allowing myself to be a little bit more of a social butterfly now,
Mm-hmm.
and and also engaging in martial arts, just being physically fit too, or just trying to stay active as much as possible. I think it's almost like it flipped the switch into how I communicate with people.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I feel like, and I guess I've been told this by quite a few people without really realizing it, but I've been told, I guess, that I have this natural way of communicating with people, or at least talking with them. So I think
Mm-hmm.
maybe that's just, it's always been in my nature, but without really realizing it.
Mm-hmm.
For the most part, I just try to just kind of use the same approach that you do, that you just mentioned there too. Just try to be just very friendly. You want to sound like you don't want to sound too non-threatening or too nervous or anything like that, because it just kind of gives the wrong vibe to the person that you're talking to, because you
Yeah.
don't know what this person is like. They'll probably be like, oh, this guy's kind of a weird, kind of an interesting cat, it's just
Mm-hmm.
a weird person there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what he's capable of or whatever, but I think if you present yourself a little bit more like just natural, just keep it simple, honestly, just say, hey, how are you? That's it.
Yeah.
I think that's really, I mean, it doesn't have to be like, oh, what's up, man, how you doing, or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it could
Uh,
be, if that's the way you greet people in general, like your friends and stuff. I suppose you
yeah.
could, if you're just that kind of person.
Well,
Um,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I can't really say like per se like it's gonna work for everybody, but I feel like it's
Mm-hmm.
some. somewhat of a skill that you just develop over time. You know,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to interacting with people.
Mm-hmm.
And this kind of like leads me into the present day today. You know, I think, you know, just engaging in martial arts and, you know, just going to these cons has allowed me to really open myself up, cosplaying especially.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I think it's allowed me to really change like who I am as a person and who I am when it comes to interacting with people, because you know, I can tell you right now, you know, with the, you know, yourself included, especially Dan, but I have quite a few good friends who I can honestly call family right now, because you know of how you know, how much we interact with each other, how much we click with each other. You know, and it's beautiful, you know, if you think about it, because you know, you develop these relationships over time, because you put in the time to do it. Because you know, as I still kept going to cons over and over, and I see the same people, and eventually you start talking to them, and then you ultimately realize that you kind of vibe almost like in the same frequency there too. That's when you know, you're like, oh hey, this is, you know, I want to be around these people there too. And I think just that's when you really know from an instinctive standpoint that you know, that you're not alone in the sense there too, and that you actually are capable of, you know, changing, I guess, who you are, and almost changing, you know, the way that you view things when it comes to, you know, socializing. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So, and I'll be honest too, and this is something that I actually wanted to share too.
Okay.
That you know, it's not always perfect. Truth is, while I was in the therapy school, I had it was a tough time for me, because you know, because of school, and then the material, trying to study for exams and stuff like that, and then still, I guess, still trying to figure out myself at the time, because I guess I was around people who was like very high school related. I can't really explain it there too, but I feel
Okay.
like that a lot of my classmates, at least a group of people, were, it almost like the vibe that I got from them was almost like being back in high school, which kind of made me even more anxious.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was almost like going back to square one again.
Okay.
But the thing was, I had something to focus on, because this is obviously like, this isn't high school. This is actually part of my trade right now.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the thing is, though, and again, more than comfortable to share this, but I actually did have a panic attack when I was, you know, during my spring break, to the
Okay.
point where I thought I had to call 911, because I was like, basically like my heart rate was like through the roof, like over 100. And I was like shortness of breath.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and it was a tough time. I freaked out my mom there too, and I had, and then I ended up seeing my doctor, and like everything checked out from a physical standpoint, and you know, she just contributed to stress, and she
Yeah.
recommended that I go see a counselor or a therapist for this, you know, for cognitive behavioral therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And then during that time, I actually I was able to find somebody there too. To, I guess, ultimately kind of help me get my head on straight. And
Okay.
I think at the time that it did help. It didn't seem like it helped, but it actually did. Because at the time, this was like, even because I stopped doing martial arts at the time just to focus on school.
Yeah.
But then I think at some point I realized to myself, you know what? I want to go back to martial arts. And so I did. The first school that I went to, actually, I went back to the old school that I originally started at, but I didn't like the vibe. Honestly, it
Mm-hmm.
was very, and that's another discussion for another day, because I don't want to badmouth them. But
Sure.
and then I discovered the second one, which I'm definitely willing to plug on your podcast if you don't mind. Prime Muay Thai in Lisle, Illinois. So yes,
I've been training there as well. So yeah,
yes.
definitely check
Yes,
out Prime.
yes. Check out Prime Muay Thai. It's probably, it's to me, it's like one of the best Muay Thai gyms in the area. Case in point, we had 3 of our fighters actually compete in a tournament and came away champions.
Hell
So
yeah, hell yeah. Very
that's
nice.
when you, yeah,
Very nice.
that's when you know you're actually training at the right school right there.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I
Mm-hmm.
think just going back to that, it gave me a huge boost in my self-confidence, and it allowed me to, all the feelings of social anxiety that I had, it kind of dissipated, you know, because
Great.
yeah. So, I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't really explain why, but it just did. Maybe it's just the physical activity, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe it's the fact that I'm actually learning how to fight. And if anyone ever messed with me there too, I actually can kick their ass. So yeah, I
That's a
don't
good
know.
point. Yeah, the confidence of
Yeah,
just
yeah.
knowing you could take somebody down if necessary. Yeah,
Well, of course, yeah, yeah.
right.
I'm just saying, just first, don't use that for violence. Of course, I'm not
Yes.
condoning that.
Use your head.
um,
Use your
yeah,
head first.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess the takeaway message is, and this is just for anybody who still, has issues with social anxiety. Um, just keep trying. Just keep trying. Just try and look for your niche, and eventually you're going to come across people who share that there too. I mean, just do your research and
Mm-hmm.
stay true. I know this is very cliche, but you should stay true to who you are, because a lot of the interests that I had, growing up, especially throughout middle school and high school, I'm still interested in it today. And you ultimately discover that there are people out there who share that same interests in you too.
Yeah.
You got to find the right resources too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, the one major breakthrough that's helped so many people is the internet. The internet has
Yes.
changed the game in social interaction. We have
Social media.
social
Yeah.
media now. Yeah,
Yes.
definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's changed everything. That's changed the whole game as far as people interacting with each other and meeting
Absolutely.
online, having
Mhm.
relationships, and
Yes.
doing stuff like this, like you and me just having a little time on the podcast. Like
Yeah.
it's all
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah. I'll be honest. Just doing this is really, it was very therapeutic. Just to even talk about this openly.
Nice.
It's,
Nice.
granted that, I'll be honest. It still bothers me at times there
Mm-hmm.
too. So it's not completely away
Yeah.
too, but I think my mindset has really changed. I think just going through the struggles that I had, maybe it is going back to martial arts. I don't know. But I think in a way it's allowed me to really think more clear. And allowed me to kind of reflect and really help me examine who I am as a person. So it's just kind
Mm-hmm.
of it's really allowed me to really just I guess spread my wings a little bit, because I'll be honest, just I'm sure that the listeners out there are probably thinking to yourself, this guy has social anxiety, because and I'm like and then I'm like, yeah, I actually do. Maybe I just do a pretty damn good job hiding it. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I hear you. I mean, like I suffer from
Yeah,
depression, and so I do a good job of hiding it too. Like a lot of the times I feel
yeah,
depressed, and I look like I'm just fine. I sound like I'm just fine, but you know, I'll feel it. I'll feel it. In my bones, and it's like it's like I wish I didn't feel
yeah,
this way, but it's just part of being alive for me, and for
yeah,
you. You face social anxiety, and
yeah,
you
yeah.
felt the need to hide it as well. And so
It's still,
the more we talk about these things, the easier it is to not have to hide it.
yeah, yeah, and honestly, I still suffer from that to a certain degree too. Um, but at least now I have an idea on how to handle it, and now that it gives me a little bit more flexibility as to
Mhm.
what I can do to manage this here too. Because if you're
Mhm.
feeling down, go to the gym. I always like to joke about this. If you're feeling down, go to the gym. You're feeling sad, go to the gym.
Yes,
Feel happy,
scientifically
go to the gym.
proven. Yes, scientifically
Yes,
proven.
exercise. Basically, I'm
Mhm.
telling you guys right now, that's one of the big things that's helped me out is exercise.
Yes,
uh,
please,
doesn't matter what
please.
doesn't matter what you do. You could go to the gym, lift weights. You can go to the gym, start doing yoga. You can do martial arts.
Yeah,
I don't
be
know,
active.
play sports. I don't know, play
Mhm.
basketball or something there too.
Totally,
Just
totally.
do some, or even just going for walks too. I mean, that's always
Yes,
something that I found to be
I
very therapeutic.
do a
But you
ton of that.
gotta exercise. Yes, I will.
Yes.
That's something that I will say, and I'm sure Dan, you can agree to this too.
Oh,
You gotta
100%.
exercise and take good
100%.
care of yourself, because
Yes.
that almost like that is like the natural antidepressant right there.
It is. It is. Yes, for certain. I spent many times just late. Well, last night I actually did a workout just before I went to bed because I wasn't
Hmm.
feeling that great mentally, and I was like, man, how do I shake this? And it's like I need to go do cardio for 30 minutes, and so I
Yeah,
did. I did, and I felt better. I had the sweat going. My
there you
mind
go.
was more at ease, and
There you
it
go.
made a big difference. So you're exactly
See?
right. You're exactly right.
Yes,
Please work
yes.
out. Please be active.
Please work out. Yes,
Yes.
yes, absolutely,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. I mean, just make sure you find the right thing that works for you, the right exercise, because there's so many different forms of like activity and exercise that you can do. But just try to make time for yourself, even if it's just like 20, 30 minutes a day.
Yeah.
That's all you need.
Yeah, exactly, and just move up from there. I mean, it's a great thing to kind of keep your mind off of what's going on today.
Yes,
Definitely.
absolutely,
Definitely.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I think that's gonna do it, my friends. It's been an incredible podcast, over an hour of chatting. It's been a lot of fun, and like you said, very therapeutic. I feel good. How do you feel?
I feel great, actually.
Yeah.
I'm ready. I was like, I'm ready. I'm ready to go right now. I'm like, I'm ready to hit some bags right now, man.
Hell yeah.
Again,
Hell yeah.
and this is something, I guess. Again, this is just repeating, just to the listeners out there, especially. I mean, how many? Just out of curiosity, Dan, how many viewers do you typically have, or subscribers?
YouTube subscribers, I got 516 last time I checked.
Oh wow, that's
Yeah.
impressive there too. I
Thank
didn't get
you.
a chance to look at it. That's really good. That's really
Thank
good.
you. Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank
So
you very
all
much.
the 500 plus people that listen to this here too, that are still suffering from social anxiety there too. Again, I may not seem like the type that actually is somebody to advocate this, because I guess of how I'm articulating, but there is a light at the end of the tunnel. It's for some people, it's going to be a little bit different for everybody. Some people shorter, some people longer. There is a light at the end of the tunnel, though. You just got to just, as cliche as it sounds, you just got to can't quit on yourself. Don't quit on yourself. Find yourself in a situation where you feel very uncomfortable. Take a deep breath, take a step back, remind yourself who the hell you are. That's it. I mean,
Definitely.
because I can tell you right now that once you see that, once you remind yourself of that, you find yourself a little bit more at ease, because, you don't want to lose sight of who you are. That shouldn't be an option, because if you start becoming somebody that you are not, and trying just so that way you can fit in, that's just not good. That's just not good. It's just going to lead you down a very, very dark path. Yeah.
Because if that doesn't work out, what do you have left? You no longer have yourself, because you left it behind.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So be yourself. That's all
Mm-hmm.
that matters. Just be yourself.
Yeah. Because no one else is going to be it for you.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for episode number 12 of For Your Mental Health Weekly. I want to thank Andrew Mann for coming on the show today.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful speaking with you. Too sweet, per
Yes,
the
sir.
usual.
Too sweet
There it is.
All right, so thank you so much for watching on the YouTubes, on the podcast, on Spotify, on iTunes, however you're absorbing this material. Thank you so much for the support. I really appreciate it. And as always, follow your instincts and peace out from the show. Sayonara.
Hey, guys.